So I thought, yeah, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to make myself show up every day. I felt not very knowledgeable about the contributions of women, and it felt like something at that moment that I needed to learn and wanted to learn. To get a likeness, I've worked so hard to be able to do that, first of all. And that is a hard thing to do. And a lot of people say that, like, I can draw this or paint this, but I can't do faces. Faces are hard. And they're right, faces are hard. It's hard to get a likeness. So being able to get a likeness from a photograph or from real life or from anything has just taken years and years and years of practice. But what I used for those paintings in particular, usually it was a combination of a lot of different photos of women. I always use reference, I always use a lot of references. The only one that I made up was Joan of Arc, because there were no photos of Joan of Arc, and even the descriptions of what she looked like kind of varied. I read a lot of written descriptions of what she looked like, so I ended up completely creating her, and that was probably the first time I've ever done that, period, just because I like references. For the references I would do, I would take, Oprah's a good example. There's a million high-resolution, amazing photos of Oprah, but I don't want to just steal somebody's photo and paint it exactly. I want to give it my own thing. So her face was like from one picture, her hair was from one picture. I would change their outfits. I was sort of paper dolling these people. Like, a lot of them are wearing things they did not wear in any photos because I made it up, or like elaborate looking jewelry or gold leaf necklaces and earrings and things that didn't really exist. So I definitely use photo references for the faces, but I took a lot of liberties in other ways to make the image as a whole just mine and unique. That statement was a declaration, like a promise, first and foremost. So, I mean, everybody's had a dark year, so everybody knows. They don't know my personal darkness, but you know, it's kind of similar to everybody else. I had planned my entire year out prior to any COVID situation or anything. I had planned out my year as a teacher in a private studio, as an artist who works independently. Got this perfect year of classes, and then COVID happened and I couldn't do that, which I'm flexible, and that was, you know, I went with it, and I did some other things. I came up with some creative ways to make some money and interact with people even through the mail. I did an art mail swap, so that was cool, but eventually I was just getting really down. The political climate had a lot to do with that too, so I soothed myself by going outside. Oh my God, there's a giant watermelon in here. I created a humongous garden and just completely immersed myself in the outdoors. And I was starting to foresee, okay, I need to shut the garden down for the year. Oh crap, I need some money, you know. My veggies weren't paying me. They were paying me my soul, but they weren't paying my bills. So I had maybe for 2 or 3 weeks before that point been building up to a kind of a dread of, oh, it's gonna get dark sooner. The weather's changing. I don't have this sunlight therapy anymore. I can't go back to teaching classes right now because COVID was exploding. So I really just didn't know what to do. And I spent a few weeks not knowing what to do next and just feeling really stuck and really depressed, honestly. So it was difficult for me to get to my easel, which is where I would typically go if I don't know what to do. I could paint.
What was the catalyst?
The catalyst of the project was, in the midst of all of that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and I really wanted to paint her. And that was the first time I had wanted to paint, really, truly wanted to spend my day painting. So I didn't have any intention of turning that into anything big, exactly. I just painted her. I don't want to pretend like I was some super knowledgeable historian of a person. I didn't know much about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I felt this sadness, like a collective sort of sadness over her death, and people who I admire and love and want to be like and know a lot more about those things than I do were very sad. I felt their sadness. I felt this major despair of like, oh God, like what's going to happen with the election? Where are we going? And so I painted her not because I knew everything about her and wanted to put all that into paint. I painted her to know her. When I first started, I just did it to feel better. I really, truly just did it to feel better and to learn about the contributions of women. And so my philosophy going into it was, I feel like crap, and painting Ruth Bader Ginsburg made me feel amazing. I want to do that again. I'm going to recreate that. I learned a lot. That's why it started becoming really important to me to share everything I was learning, because I really didn't intend to do that in the beginning. To paint a portrait every day is enough of a challenge, but eventually it was like, I can't learn all this and not share this. This is crazy. I think that Rosa Parks her painting was a little milestone kind of turning point for me, because I knew who Rosa Parks was. I learned about her in school, as everybody does. But when I really learned about her, like really sat down and listened to her speak in her old age in interviews, she at like, I don't remember, 80 some years old, was still in every interview that she did, was adamant in the very beginning, my feet did not hurt. Everybody can be like, oh, she's a sweet little granny and her feet hurt. No, she was an ass kicker. She was a trained activist. She was in her, maybe she was 40, she was young. And I was like, obviously that's such a thing that she's sick to death of hearing that. I had to go back and really examine, why did I learn that? Who told me that? Why is that in every book ever? And then you got to think a little deeper, like, what does that mean? Why would that even exist? And the reason that exists is because she was portrayed as a feeble, tired little old lady who just did her work during the day and then got on the bus and was just tired, damn it, and she just wanted a break. In a white society, that's a very palatable, kind of easy to digest version of what happened. She was utilized by an organization that was ready for change. The Montgomery bus boycott happened. That was the catalyst of it, but it was something that had been brewing and people had been talking about, and she was a badass, and that would have been a much less palatable thing to sell to white school children, I imagine, is that this really pissed off badass black woman who knew exactly what she was doing said no, because that's not something that women, that black people in general, not just women, were supposed to do at that time, was say no, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I really did them one day at a time, which is what you should do when you're feeling down and you want to fix that. Just take one next step forward. So I truly picked them on the fly every day. I did totally welcome suggestions, which I got a ton of. Way more people than I thought started following it, which is great. It was amazing. The interaction was amazing. It was important to me that I didn't try to make some comprehensive 100 list. This isn't about rank. I mean, I painted Lizzo just a few days before or after I painted Eva Moses Core, who was a Holocaust survivor who ended up like forgiving Joseph Mengele for abusing and torturing her. So there's her, who lives to be like 100 or something and was absolutely ridiculously tough and amazing and went through the Holocaust. And then there's Lizzo, modern day, whose Instagram is full of twerking videos, you know? So I knew right off the bat, this is not comprehensive. It felt like there's no pressure here. I just want to paint anybody who I think is a badass for whatever reason, and all kinds of contributions are needed and necessary, and they all serve a purpose. 100 is a tiny little number of women who've contributed greatly to the world, so I knew right off the bat, I'm not gonna get everybody. There's gonna be someone who takes issue with someone I paint or someone I didn't paint. Some days, probably it was like they had a cool name, and I picked their name off the list. And I would look something up about them, and for whatever reason, I mean, they were all amazing, but for whatever reason, I would think, not her, not today. And I think it was just an internal, whatever I needed to paint that day is what I ended up painting. The contributions of the 100 women that I painted are, the magnitude of it is enormous. The ripple effect it's caused, it's enormous, it's immeasurable. I think it's such a tragic shame that some of them Many of them I didn't know about before at all. I didn't know they existed, and I should have. If they were men, I would have known that they existed. In some cases, if they were white, I probably would have known that they existed. And we don't tell their truth to people, like to young kids, even if they are in the history books, which in some cases they're not, and in some cases they've been re-adding. Like in Artemisia Gentileschi, her paintings have been contributed to male painters. She's been completely omitted from history books and had to go back and be added later. She has maybe a retrospective of her work in the past couple years or recently in a major museum, but she never got to see that really in her lifetime. To do what they did and stick to their guns and still create change and still have to push against ridiculous oppression and do it anyway and then die and be remembered wrong is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't mean to sound totally selfish about it, but the project was for me. It was for me to heal a little bit, and I also really wanted to share it with other people, but it was more like, I'm gonna do this. I would love for you to come.